months ago, just after hitting 1,000 subscribers, I made a video on how I will become a millionaire by 32. Little did I know at the time that that video was going to get 1 million views and I was going to reach 400,000 subscribers 3 months later. At the back of that video, I read a few of the comments with some people being like, well, that's all well and good, but how are you actually applying what you're saying? So as I opened this thing, I thought it'll be interesting to go through how I have applied each of those points since then and how it's got me closer to where I want to be. A bit of a disclaimer. What I really meant was how I plan to be financially free by 32, but that doesn't have the same ring to it. Anyway, let's get into it. Number one was my all-weather portfolio. The first thing I said I was focusing on is my all-weather portfolio, which is essentially building out my income streams to withstand the different curveballs life throws. So this time last year, I had 2 income streams. And that was firstly through my day job as a banker and secondly through rental property. And in the last 12 months, I was committed to building those out, both online and offline. I've explored 1,001 different things since then. Some of them went well and some of them I completely failed at. What I've learned through it all is if you say you're going to do something, show up. Commit to what you said you're going to do. And if it's not going well, fail fast, fail forward, learn quickly. If it doesn't work, you could just move on to the next thing and take those learnings with you. YouTube is now one of my income streams, more so than I ever expected it to be. And that's why this represents part of my journey to financial freedom. If each of your subscribers were a light year, they would take you from one side of the Milky Way to the other. That's cool. The second thing I said is thinking in terms of first principles. And this concept came from Elon Musk. And what he essentially meant is not to take everything at face value. And just because something hasn't been done before, it does not mean it's not possible and you cannot prove a negative. Unlike a corporate job where you have a pretty much known trodden path to follow, you go to school, you get good grades, get a degree, apply for a job. Being an entrepreneur requires a lot of first principles thinking, where you really don't know whether or not the thing you are working on is the next $1 million idea or an absolute fail. But to get to that point, you have to be willing to do things that the ordinary person thinks is impossible. And what I've realized in the last couple of months is no matter how big or unreachable what you want to do seems, you first need to have the belief and the growth mindset that it can be done. And then you need to break it down into smaller steps to realize how obtainable each of those steps are, because pretty much everything today can be figured out somehow through books, through courses, through the internet, speaking to other people. So the next time someone tells you your goal is too big or tells you something is not possible or you're too old for it, walk away, break it into smaller plans and just get working on it. Let's take this off. The third thing I said I'll be doing is utilizing the strengths of others. And this has been a game changer for me. In the book, The E-Myth Revisited, the author discusses the reasoning as to why most businesses fail. And he argues that one of the main reasons is that people focus in the business and in the technicalities rather than on the business as a whole. None of us are good at everything. We all have individual strengths that are unique to us. And what I've realized is those unique skills will get you to a certain point, but then to get even further, you need to utilize the strengths of others. For example, I know I am not very good with technology. I will openly say it. I'm not going to pretend that I am or try to convince myself that I am, but somehow I've managed to make my YouTube setup look somewhat decent. I've fixed my audio. I've got a website up and running, and I've managed to make a living through what is essentially technology. But I can tell you now that this was only possible because I utilized the strengths of others. I paid for the strengths and the skills of other people who are better than me in these areas, whilst I focused on what I was good at and adding value there. The fourth thing I mentioned was the slight edge. This concept came from the book The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, and he mentions that our small habits and actions that we take every day will ultimately decide where we get to in life and whether we will fail or succeed. It may not feel like you're sacrificing much if you don't work out today or if you don't work out tomorrow or the day after, but as you keep missing your workouts, those small habits will catch up with you 5 years from now, and you'll be in a whole different place than you would if you committed to showing up every day. And if I look back at the last 5 years of my life, I can say the same thing. The first 4 of those 5 years, nothing really happened. I just coasted. I stayed in the same job, did the same things, and my life pretty much looked exactly the same in year 1 as it did in year 4. And then at the start of last year, I committed to changing things up for myself and implemented these small habits every single day. I meditated first thing in the morning. I wrote in my journal every day. I spent 3 hours, no matter what, every day on a side hustle. And I've started to see the benefits and the payoffs from these small actions. And it was small repeated steps every day that I do believe will eventually pay off. The fifth thing is leaning into your money-making superpower. When I recorded that video, I truly believed everyone had a money-making superpower. I didn't know what mine was at the time, but I knew that I had one. And just through trying out so many different things as possible and absorbing as much information as I can, I've started to figure out what mine is, and I continue to believe everyone has one. I've heard a few other creators speaking about this, that your money-making stream is a combination of working hard, a bit of luck, and your unfair advantages. So things that you have that other people can't easily replicate. So it may mean that you're able to take really complicated stuff and explain it in simple terms. It may mean that you have a degree in maths or in pharmacy, engineering, or that you're a real people's person and amazing at sales. And I think for me on social media, one of my unfair advantages was the fact that I'm a qualified accountant and I've been working in investment banking for 9 years. But I do believe everyone has something like this that applies to them. So lean into that thing because it will give you a head start. And through that, you'll be able to create your money-making stream that's an extension of who you are and where your core strengths are. The sixth thing I said I'll do is live below my means. And this is one that is common sense, but not common practice. And it's essentially rule number one for managing your finances. You want to increase the gap between your income and expenses as much as you can, and then diversify and invest the difference. And my income has increased since I made that video, but my expenses have stayed exactly the same. I've made no change in my lifestyle. I don't plan on making changes. Maybe I'll buy my strawberries from M&S every now and then. But other than that, I will keep reinvesting the difference in a way that builds out my passive income streams and hopefully gets me to a point where I only work because I want to, not because I need it to make money or because I have to. With that said, thank you for this. It's so cool. The number of followers and subscribers has never meant much to me, but what means a lot to me are the comments. It's just seeing in black and white the impact that this channel has. That means everything to me. And I'm so glad that going down this path of achieving financial freedom, I'm able to do the one thing that was so important to me, and that was giving back along the way and helping the most number of people with the resources I have. So I want to say thank you for watching. I'm so happy to be part of your journey. If you do want to check out that video that I've been banging on about, then I'll link that here for you. I hope to see you in my next video.